evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to the listening public here on the island of Nevis. Of course, brothers and sisters on St. Kitts and those who are in the wider Caribbean. Good evening to our friends and family in the United States and Canada and in the United Kingdom. And good evening to you wherever you are. Welcome to another edition of On the Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley. And of course, on Wednesdays, it means that between 8 and 10 p.m., we try to be here and discussing matters that are topical and matters that are of interest to you, the general public. Sometimes we feel we have a hot topic and we bring it, and then when the lines open, of course, you're not interested in that topic. And that's why I say at the end of the day, On the Mark is a people's show, because once the lines open, you have the ability to call in and to speak to whatever matters are impacting your mind. And so we invite your calls certainly when the lines open. And this talk show tends now to have a format where we do the first few minutes, sometimes longer than a few, where I do what I refer to as my soliloquy, and thereafter I open the lines and allow the public to have their say. The lines, when they do open, the numbers to call will be 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Those will be the numbers to call. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot that is going on in the country, and I believe that the gains that we would have made as a country, the gains that we continue to make as a country, those gains are now under threat. And I say so because, of course, we have had a recent upsurge in crime and violence in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and at this point, 6 months into the year, a majority of that has been concentrated on the island of St. Kitts. That notwithstanding, we recognize that this is one country, and that whatever happens on the island of St. Kitts inevitably makes its way to the island of Nevis and vice versa. We're only 2 miles apart, and therefore there is no insulation, there is no wall that separates us. We are in this together, and as a consequence we have to look very carefully at what is happening. As the Premier of Nevis, I can tell you that I would have convened a session with the High Command here in Nevis to look at strategies that the police were putting in place to deal with any eventualities on this side of the Federation. I have also had the benefit of a conversation with the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew, and I do believe that just as in the past when this country had challenges, that we will find solutions. I have listened to the debate and the commentary, and I of course occupy the position now as Premier of Nevis, but also leader of the opposition in the National Parliament. It therefore forces me to be careful in terms of how I engage. Careful because I think it is absolutely necessary for the Nevis Island administration to have a working relationship with the government in Basseterre. We have seen in the past when that relationship did not exist and the results. And I believe that as a country we ought to find a framework where the NIA and federal government always have a working relationship, because I think that is critical if we are going to deliver for the people of our country that better future that, of course, they would have voted for. I am, however, also the leader of the opposition in the National Parliament through, of course, the vagaries of our constitutional arrangement. And some people seem to be of a view that the role of the leader of the opposition, indeed the role of the opposition, is on every issue to oppose the government. I do not share that view. At my age now and stage, I have been in politics for a little while, and I believe that I have learnt from my sojourn there thus far. I entered politics, active politics, elective politics in 2007 after the tragic passing of the late great Malcolm Bichard. And the people of St. John's and St. Paul's number 9 would have elected me. At the time I used to like to say by a landslide of 30 votes. And I became leader of the opposition at a fairly young age in the National Parliament. And I find myself now at the winter of my career in politics back there as leader of the opposition. My approach this time around, I think, has been different. Because I believe now that what our people demand of us as we mature as a democracy is solutions. Not just criticism, not just recrimination, not just blame, but solutions. And some may say, well, it is not for you. You are in the opposition. It is not for you to provide solutions. That's the role of the government. That's why people elect a government. And I agree that to some extent that is true. But people also elected me. So the people of St. John's and St. Paul's would have gone to the polls and elected Mark Brantley as their representative. Now, he may not have made it into the cabinet and into government, but nevertheless, I have been duly and lawfully elected as a representative of people. And so the question for me is, what do I do with that trust and confidence reposed in me? Do I subdue any ideas or contribution that I can make for the betterment of their lives and the overall betterment of the island of Nevis and the wider federation because I am in opposition? Or do I lend whatever ideas I might have to the government and hope that the government may see value in them for implementation for the benefit of those same people who sent me to Parliament? It is a serious question, and I do not ask that question lightly, because some see any effort to extend a hand across the aisle and to say that some issues are far bigger than any of us, that any effort along those lines is somehow wrong and bad and traitorous and all manner of evil is expressed in relation to that. Some see politics as blood sport. It's us or them. I recall having a conversation in the youthful days of my politics. And I had that conversation with someone whose advice I sought from time to time and who I admired then and still admire now. And that person asked me the question. They said, you are in opposition, but you keep going on the air and you keep offering ideas and solutions. Why are you doing that? So it was many years ago. And I said, because if I have ideas that can better the country, I think that's what I ought to do. And he said, no, you're being foolish. He said, if you saw a cruise ship coming into the Charleston port and traveling too fast, and you realize that that cruise ship will collide with the port and destroy the port, what would you do? And I answered, I will sound the alarm and say that the cruise ship should slow down lest we lose the port. And this gentleman, older and wiser than me, he said, you're foolish. You should let the cruise ship destroy the port, and then when you get into government, you build it back. And I believe that story has shaped much of my approach, because I fundamentally disagreed with that advice that had been proffered to me. And I said to him, but when the cruise ship collides with our pier and destroys our pier, at the end of the day, it is our pier that has been destroyed. It is not the pier of Joseph Parry, who was the premier at the time. It is our pier. It is the pier for the people of Nevis. And all of us will be affected adversely if that pier is destroyed. And yet he was adamant that my role as a member of the opposition was to let whatever bad happen, because it will hasten the demise of the government, make the government look bad, and therefore make it easier for me as a member of the opposition to get into government. And I always remember, he said, do not sound the alarm, let the pier mash up, and then you get into government and you fix it back. We find ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, at a crossroad. It is a moral and philosophical crossroad. I am concerned that the nature of our politics now is that we either support one side or the other. And if the side that we support is not in government, then we decide that we will not offer any assistance or any ideas, even on issues that have the potential to destroy the very country that we say we love. I commented recently that the Nevis Reformation Party, the party that is the main opposition party on the island of Nevis, that for the first time in known history, they would have gone into an election in December last year and asked the people of Nevis to vote for them without ever publishing a manifesto of their ideas, their plans, their programs, their commitments, if they were successful. And a friend of mine who is a member of the NRP remonstrated with me, and you know what he said? You just want to see NRP ideas so you could thief them. That was his response. And I said to him, what is the value of any idea if that idea cannot be actualized for the benefit of the people of the island of Nevis and the wider Federation? What is the value of you having all of these ideas, but none of them are articulated, none are shared, and you're not in government, so you never ever have the opportunity for those ideas to see the light of day? What is the value? Remember, we all say we love our country. We all put our hands on our heart and we say, this land we love, oh land of beauty, our country where peace abounds. We pledge that allegiance to this land that is St. Kitts and Nevis. We say we love it. All of us profess our deep patriotism and our love of country and our love of people. We go to the constituents, we say, me love you long time, vote for me. But the minute we don't get into government, we say we will now do nothing, advance no idea. We will have no discussion that can assist in a solution. We will only criticize. And some say that is right because you're in opposition. Now, don't get me wrong. There will be times when there are fundamental differences of opinion between opposition and government. There will be times when the government is on a path and it is for the opposition to engage with them to correct course. It is for the opposition to speak out when matters are not going as they should, when decisions are taken that in the opinion of the opposition will lead to the wrong result. There are equally issues where we as a people must rise above the politics because there are some issues which are bigger than the politics. Crime is such an issue. I recall when 9/11 happened and those terrorists attacked the United States of America. In America, there are the Republicans and the Democrats. Sometimes they behave as if they are the Jews and the Gentiles. But I saw then President Bush, the younger, take up, I believe it was a bullhorn, and he, standing in the rubble, declared that those responsible will pay. And I marveled at the fact that despite political and sometimes deep philosophical differences, despite the divide between right and left in the United States, all Americans rallied together in the cause of the United States of America. Because all Americans, Republican and Democrat alike, recognize that terrorism posed a clear and present danger to the existence of the United States of America. All Americans joined together behind the flag, the red, white, and blue of the United States of America. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what democracies, mature democracies, and true patriotism look like. We didn't start to hear, well, is Bush shoes in there, so that's Bush problem. We didn't start to hear, well, if Bush was not there, the terrorists would not have attacked. We didn't start to hear, well, look how many people died in the World Trade Center because a Republican president is in. Because I think people of good sense and goodwill recognize that the terrorists did not ask, well, who's going to be in the World Trade Center today, Republicans or Democrats? Let me find out who's going to be there before we attack. Who's going to be in Washington? Before we attack, let's find out who's going to be in the building today, whether it's Republican or Democrat. That's an important point, ladies and gentlemen. It's an important point because just as in the situation in 9/11, where the terrorists were no respecters of the politics of America and the internal divisions that might exist in the United States of America, so too these criminals here in St. Kitts and Nevis don't care whether you're PAM, Labour, NRP, CCM, PLP. That is not their interest. Their interest is to destroy what all of us collectively have built. That is their interest. They don't care about life. They don't care about anything or anybody. And they certainly don't care about your politics. I liken them to the terrorists that attacked the United States. You know why? Because the objective is to cause maximum carnage and damage to our country. Not to the Drew administration, not previously to the Timothy Harris administration, not previous to that to the Douglas administration or the Simmons administration. They want to cause damage to the country of St. Kitts and Nevis. And the last time I checked, this country doesn't belong to Terence Drew. He happens to be the Prime Minister at this point in our history. But the country don't belong to him. If God forbid he were to leave politics tomorrow, I assure you St. Kitts and Nevis will go on. Simmons was there and left and St. Kitts and Nevis went on. Douglas was there and left and St. Kitts and Nevis went on. Timothy Harris was there and left and St. Kitts and Nevis is going on. Simeon Daniel in Nevis was there and left, Nevis went on. Then came Vance Emery, who came and left and Nevis went on. Joseph Parry, and I assure you when Mark Brantley leaves that Nevis will go on. The country, the island, the government is not the individual. It is all of us. It is all of us. And so long as we continue with this false narrative that it is the responsibility of just the person who happens at that point to be in government to solve issues and problems which threaten all of us, so long as we continue with the false narrative that so long as we are not in government, we have no duty, no responsibility to offer ideas or to be a part of the solution, we will continue to fail. So here's what's happening. We've had an upsurge in crime in St. Kitts and Nevis. I believe that all right-thinking persons must condemn with one voice these criminals engaged in this level of carnage that we are seeing. We must condemn it. 4 murders in 24 hours is unacceptable in a population our size, in a country our size. It is unacceptable, and 1 murder is one too many. But we must move past the statistics. We must move past the talk. And we must now move to a phase where our love of our country is what guides us. And our deep understanding that criminality is no respecter of party or persons. We can't say this is Drew problem because somehow it only affecting Labour people. The truth, brothers and sisters, is that we do not know for whom the bell might toll next. We just don't know. We don't know who these youngsters will try to attack next. It could be you. It could be me. It could be your loved one. It could be my loved one. So if we have that realization that crime is no respecter of party or persons, if we have that realization that crime is the type of monster that can destroy an entire country. Now, what is our major industry in St. Kitts and Nevis? The industry that employs the most people. And the answer is tourism. We have our hotel sector and persons employed in that sector. We have our allied agencies and businesses that support that industry. If you're a taxi man at Port Zante, if you're a taxi man here in Nevis, if you're a farmer, if you're a fisherman, you go out to dive lobsters, you're part of the tourism industry. Those working at NASPA and SCASPA, those airlines that land in at RLB, and all who make a living working for American Airlines, you're part of this critical industry. And we know, ladies and gentlemen, that nothing will destroy the tourism industry quicker than a reputation of crime and criminality, a reputation of instability and insecurity. They say that there used to be 3 S's in the region, describing what we sell. And that was sun, sea, and sand. Sun, sea, and sand. Those were the 3 S's. In more recent times, particularly with the all-pervasive influence and penetration of the internet and social media, those 3 S's have now become 5. Sun, sea, and sand has now become sun, sea, sand, safety, and security. So we now have 5 S's. Sun, sea, sand, safety, and security. People want to go to places where they are secure. And so the actions that we are seeing are actions that can impact all of us. When you say you want your road done and you want lights and you want play field and you want all of these things, infrastructural development, what does it come from? It comes from our ability to earn tax money. And where does the government earn tax money? We earn tax money from our hotel sector, from the wages and the revenue that is generated in that sector, and the business licenses and UBT and corporate taxes, etc. that generated. Well, if that industry goes away, if people in their decision making start to say this is an unsafe country, it offers sun, sea, and sand, but it does not offer safety and security. So let us go to the Maldives. Let us go to Grenada. Let us go to Barbados or elsewhere, because we can't go to St. Kitts and Nevis. I want our people to recognize the trickle-down impact of that. That if you're home, listen to me right now, and you have a taxi and you work at Port Zante and you have to meet National Bank every month with the payment for your taxi, you understand that I'm talking to you. If you are a farmer and you're growing greens to sell to Marriott and Park Hyatt and Four Seasons, I'm speaking to you. If you're a fisherman and every time you go out and you catch your snappers or you dive your lobsters or your conch, you're selling to the hotel sector, I'm speaking to you. If you're an animal farmer and your mutton and your pork and your beef, you're selling into the hotel sector and the tourism sector, I am speaking to you. And if you're a hotel worker who goes in every day and clocks in to earn a living to support your family, I am speaking to you, and I'm saying to you that criminality endangers you. not just the physical danger of you possibly being a victim, but it endangers you because when these criminals have taken out their acts of vengeance on each other or on whoever else, and the country gets a reputation for being a place where peace does not abound, the tourists start staying away. And the sector in which we realize starts to die. And when that dies, our people die with it. Because all of us have mortgages to pay and car note to pay and picnic to send to school. So I said these things to try to give a sense that crime affects all of us. Some feel it's just the grieving family that has lost a loved one, or the home and the homeowners that have just been burglarized. But no, crime affects all of us. And if crime affects all of us, then I believe it follows logically and inexorably that all of us must be part of that solution to crime. Now, who are the victims? Let me bring it home a little closer now. Who are the victims of crime? They're people in the community. When the two gentlemen were killed in St. Kitts, we had a double murder the night before, I think, then two killed the following day. Something to that effect. I spoke to a friend of mine who said that both were cousins to her. I can only imagine the grief that families must be bearing. When you hear people grieve, I am told that one mother ended up in hospital, high blood pressure, can't comprehend, can't understand that their child has been taken away in this fashion. So while we understand that they are direct victims and we must pray for them and comfort them and be there for them in every way that we can, we must recognize, ladies and gentlemen, that those victims come from our communities. They are divisions and petitions. They are of us. Equally, we must recognize that those criminals, those miscreants among us, engaging in this level of brutality, are also of us. They're not some alien race that has landed on St. Kitts Nevis from Mars or Pluto. They are of us. They are our brothers and sisters, our cousin, our friend that we went to school with. And so we must ask ourselves that deep question. How did this loving nation of St. Kitts and Nevis create such monsters? It's an important question. And we may argue till the cows come home. Or it's the parents and their irresponsibility. You've heard me talk about it. People don't like to hear it. But I talk about it. Some getting children as if it's a fashion statement. I have said here on the air, one young lady told me she wanted a child because them cute. And I said, them cute? You recognize that it's a lifelong obligation that you are taking upon yourself? But all her concern was her friends were having children and them cute. That was her concern. That was the decision making. We have people who want to go have 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 and can't afford one. Some men out there boasting of how many children they've sired. But you ask them, how many have you fathered? They can't answer you because they now support none. So we must take responsibility, and I preach about it on the show all the time. Some don't like to hear it, but that's the reality. And so long as I have life and the ability to speak, I will continue to say we must be responsible and take responsibility. So we may say it's the parents. We may go on from the parents and say, no, it's the community in which these youngsters have grown up. Some may say it's the teachers in the school, they ain't doing their job now. Not that long ago when teachers cared, nowadays they don't care. You hear all of these arguments. Some say it's the police, they don't do a good job. Some say it's the politicians. And we could go all night finding the people who we feel are responsible for these monsters that have come out of our communities. But at the end of the day, the victims are from us, and the criminals are equally from us. I have said time and time again that there are too many mothers, girlfriends, friends, family members who know that them pick me bad and involved in criminality. Bring them all God and sweep on the Bible, not them son. They know that guns are in their house, and sometimes they themselves involved in hiding the gun. Tell them, son, hide the gun, police are come. These things, I am not saying things that aren't true. All of us know them to be true. We have a community that wants the police to solve crime but refuse to help the police. And that is what I'm seeking to get to, ladies and gentlemen. If we are truly patriotic, if we truly say we love our country, then we all must take the decision that we will together find solutions. All of us must be singing in the same church, from the same pew, from the same hymn book, singing the same hymn. That must be our collective responsibility and duty as citizens of this country. We can't sit back and say the police now do their job. Police can't be everywhere. The police are human just like us. But too many times you will sit back and cuss the police, say they now do their job, when you have information that you refuse to disclose to the police. Well, how the police can do their job if you don't help? How are they to do their job if you who have information that can assist in the detection and prosecution of these criminals refuse to help? You know why? Because in this society we have developed this approach that not me problem. Oh, they killed Miss Smith's son. Oh, that not me problem. Once them not touch me daughter, once them not touch me son. But remember I said, we do not know for whom the bell tolls next. And because we peep through our window and we see the thief going into the neighbor house, and we say we not tell police. What them say, me not no inform, or me not inform police. You know, no snitch. All kind of foolishness people say. But you then take to the airwaves, you take to the internet, you take to social media, and you castigate the very police and say, they now do their job. Well, how are they going to do their job? Unless we take a decision to assist them. You know why criminality thrives? Criminality thrives because people of goodwill take a decision to do nothing. I hear people say, well, they don't want to talk to police because police don't give out information, and people. That is nonsense. You know why I say it is nonsense? Every one of us has someone we know that we can trust. It might not be the police, it might be your pastor. It might be a good friend. It might be somebody at work. But for God's sake, if you can assist, choose your country and the future of your country and assist. Because the alternative is for us to keep going down this road. I say it here all the time, this story that I was told about the Nazis, Nazi Germany. So they came for the gypsies and no one said anything. They came next for all the homeless and no one said anything. They came next for the Jews and no one said anything. And then when they finally come for me, there was no one left to say anything. And you ask yourself the question, when they came for the gypsies, if the society had stood up and said, no, that is not the way that we want Germany, that is not acceptable in our country, then would the Nazis have been able to thrive and kill over 6 million Jewish people? You see, we must learn from history. And so long as we continue to see these bad men and criminals as somehow they're not doing anything that is too harmful and they're somehow celebrity and we daps them up and yo rude boy, what you say? Everything good? You're the G now, you're in charge, you're the big man. So long as we continue in that vein, we will continue to embolden them. What we need to do is to say to them, your behavior is unacceptable to all of us. You are endangering all of us. You are endangering this country. You're endangering the tourism industry. That's where I make a living. But you can't say you like me and you go out to create mayhem in the country. We, ladies and gentlemen, must stand together. So it gets me back now to the point that I'm trying to make. If the victims of crime are our people, and the perpetrators of crime are our people, that victims and perpetrators all come out of the same society. We are not sure why people go one way and some go the other way. I remind people that even in the Garden of Eden, Cain killed Abel. And so even if we go back to biblical times, we've had bad people motivated by bad things, jealousy, rage, uncontrolled emotion, that causes humans who are inherently bad and wicked to do bad and wicked things. But we must ask ourselves, what is happening in our society that is saying to some of our young people, particularly our young men, that it is okay to go and kill their brother or their sister? What is it that we are doing? And I've said this before and I'm going to say it again tonight, you know. Problem I have with some of these so-called bad men. You look at them and you say, what is the benefit of your badness? You get a hype. You get 1-2 girls say, boy, them like you because you're the G. What is the benefit? Because you look at them and you engage with them and you realize that for the vast majority of them, not got nothing. Poor people. Poor people. I believe it is Chronic that sing a song about bad man and he say the thing he knows is about all of them have gun but all of them poor. So what are you risking your life, your freedom for? I hear a man tell me the other day that some incident some years ago and some boy snatch a chain, and because that chain gets snatched, how much man dead over that? We beefing over foolishness. People are losing their lives and their futures over foolishness. You come out to some place and a man see you and somebody tell me they call you, give you a bounty, they give you a bad look, and over that people are dead. Foolishness. And at the end of the day, I still a beg breakfast. I beg you buy a lunch for me, and you got a gun, and you shoot people. It makes no sense, ladies and gentlemen. And maybe what we need is people like me in leadership position to talk the way I'm talking. Because everybody out there is engaging. Oh, they had a tough upbringing. Things were hard for them growing up. Yes, I get that. Things were hard for me growing up too. A lot of these young criminals who going around, they don't know what about latrine. They don't know what happened 2 o'clock in the morning when you got to go to the bathroom. You got to walk up a road to open a tin shed to go inside there. And when you lift up a toilet, you don't know what you're going to find. Cockroach, bullfrog, crapper. You don't know what you're going to find. Them don't know nothing about that. Hard life for some of them now is, boy, me can't wear the latest Nike. You understand? People come and talk to me all the time and tell me not now go on for them and them wear $600 shoe on them foot. We must get real in the country and have a real conversation. I am not saying that our childhoods and our upbringing and our experiences do not have an impact on us. But what I am saying is that the Creator above in His wisdom gave us all the power of choice. And all of us, Tutmun Samambagai, has the opportunity to choose. All of us know right from wrong. And all of us know that there's a path that we can take here or a path there. So you think when the criminal them kill somebody, them don't know right, if they don't know right from wrong, why them run? They should kill and stand up. But they run because they know there are consequences for what they've done. So the simple point that I'm making is this. We can't mollycoddle and pretend, because all of us, and search yourself now as you hear me, have had experiences in our lives when we had a choice to make. Many of us grew up with single parents. Many of us had to grow up with granny because no parents were around. Many of us grew up poor. And when I'm talking about poor, I'm not talking about the modern poor. I'm talking about real poor. No shoes to wear to school. Your pants that you're wearing is a string. A string, you hear me say? That's what you're wearing. Barefoot. We used to walk around barefoot to the point where your foot is the same color as the dirt. You come home and you start to wash the sole of your foot black like midnight. People going to school barefoot. You see anybody go to school barefoot now? I am making the point to say that we are all products of that experience, but experience doesn't have to define us and say to us that that is who we must be, because we have the power of choice, and all of us can choose to be good or to be bad. All of us have that ability, and we must not seek to mollycoddle those who choose to be bad and start to find excuse for them. Oh, it's the teacher. Oh, the mother used to bang them when they were young. Well, Lord, if I were to tell you how much blows I get. In those days, sometimes they used to use a yard broom. The yard broom was the coconut, what they get from the coconut tree. So when you get one of those, you get 100. But it did not make you into a human being that wanted to go out and kill people. In America and those places, you see people having war, criminals, but then the criminals warring over something. What I mean by that, them got big business, them have big trade in something. Here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we kill each other over beef, over who look at who, how one, who snatch who chain, and that's what we kill each other over. And at the end of the day, nobody benefits from it, because even the little criminal them are afraid of each other. So ladies and gentlemen, here's the point. We have a problem. The problem is not Terence Drew problem. The problem is not Mark Brantley problem. The problem is not a Labour problem. The problem is not a PAM problem. The problem is not a CCM, NRP or PLP problem. The problem is an all of society problem. And I made the same observations when we were fighting COVID. That is why I, as Premier of Nevis, invited the NRP. Come, sit with me. Let us see if we can agree on an approach. The NRP refused. It is for history to judge them. But I extended to them that hand because COVID, just like crime, was bigger than all of us. There's some issues, whether you build a hotel here or there, does the road go here or there? Those are issues that we can disagree on. An airport project, you want it to go this way or that way. But there are some issues that are bigger than all of us. Because those issues have the potential, like the terrorist attacks in America and elsewhere, like COVID-19, to destroy our country. And when I say destroy our country, I mean all of us in the country. So all this big talk about Terrence Drew. What Terrence Drew going to do? What is he going to do? He has all the answers. The last time I checked, his name was Terrence Drew, not Jesus. So what do we expect? And I'm not saying this to defend Dr. Drew. Dr. Drew will have to defend himself. And those around him will have to defend him. That's their job, not mine. But leadership has to be more than simply pointing a finger. We have to get to a point where we can sit down, look at the bigger picture, and find solutions. Dr. Drew may not have the answers. And it is not a death sentence for you sometimes to be in a position where you don't have all the answers. What you must do if you're in that position and you do not have the answers is to bring people around you who can help you find the answers. And that is the point that I have been seeking to make in relation to crime. That all of us, NRP, CCM, PAM, PLP, Labour, civil society, the church, the business community, the community groups, the schools, the nursing and doctor fraternities, all of us have a shared obligation to offer our contribution to solving the problem that has the potential to impact all of us. During COVID, we saw the same thing. I don't want Labour to feel tonight I'm going to let them off, because I was in government during COVID. And in that fight against COVID, particularly when it came to vaccination, we did not have the support of the opposition, which was then Labour. We did not have the support of the NRP in Nevis. Because again, there was the subscription to the notion that my job is to oppose. So do we continue to make the same mistakes? Or do we put our intellect and love of country to work to find solutions? Am I to say that because I sit in opposition I have no contribution to make to national development? That I can see that cruise ship coming in to mash up the pier and I say nothing because somehow the pier is the government responsibility? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm saying that we are better than that, and we can rise above it. I had a colleague send me some statistics on murders, and oh, I would wish to go back to the 1980s when we had no murders in the Federation for the whole year. 84, 85, 87, 89, zero. It seems like those days have passed. And I hear people now talking about the Drew administration and how many murders, and we've never seen anything like this. Ladies and gentlemen, that is untrue. This is why I am not getting into the hype and the nonsense that I am seeing, because it is not true. The highest number of murders this country has ever recorded was in 2011. Under Denzel Douglas-led administration, we had 35 murders in the country. 30 in St. Kitts and 5 in Nevis. 2011. The second highest number of murders that we've ever had in the history of St. Kitts and Nevis was in 2016. 26 in St. Kitts and 5 in Nevis for a total of 31. That was under Timothy Harris and a government that I was a part of. What I'm using, just that simple statistic to say, is that we have had problems with crime and violent crime for far too long. And it doesn't matter who is the Prime Minister at that point in time, because we have seen temporary lapses in terms of a reduction, and then we see it rise up again, and sometimes we don't even know why. Last year, 2022, I was saying that for the first time in many years, Nevis is not going to record any homicides for the year. I was praying that we got to the 31st of December without a homicide. And lo and behold, late in the year, we had some domestic situation and a young woman tragically lost her life. And so the statistic now says we had 1 murder in Nevis in 2022. I say that to say that as Premier of Nevis, I couldn't control that a man who's a man in terms of his body but a child in his heart and in his mind would be so enraged that he would take the life of his partner. Can I control that? Let's be fair. As the Premier of Nevis, did I arm and equip and send him to do that? The answer is no. And while I appreciate that the buck stops with leaders, because that's why we ask the public to elect us to lead, and the public expects therefore that we will have answers, I am saying that if in the public there are people who have ideas and solutions, they ought not to withhold them because they don't support the government of the day. They are not to withhold them because their side, their tribe is not in government. Because at the end of the day, this is our country. Jew is going to come and go. Brantley is going to come and go. Timothy came and went. Vance came and went. Simmons came and went. Douglas came, went, and has now come back. But the reality of the matter is that our country is what we hope will continue in perpetuity. And the country can only continue if all of us play our part. So because I'm in opposition, I'm going to have an idea that if executed will bring peace and allow my constituents to walk about, grow their businesses, have their families and live. Leave them door open at night time when they go sleep and live happy. That I should not do that because I don't want to give Joe and them no idea to make them they look good. This is what I'm asking about. That there are issues that are bigger than us and that we can sometimes put aside the politics. I've listened to a lot of commentary on this recent upsurge. And I've heard statistics. Oh, during this time that was a position. During that time that was a position. Oh, murders were down. Now murders are up. The Jew is incompetent. You hear all of these comments that are being made. You know what I've not heard, ladies and gentlemen? Any suggestions to solve the problem. Listen to all the speeches. Everybody making speech. Listen to all the commentary. Everybody calling in the radio stations. I have not heard suggestions to solve the problem. And I know that the easiest thing in the world to do is to criticize. All of us are good at it. We have PhDs in criticism here in this country. We see a man walking down the road, we say he pants too long, he pants too short. How that color not go with that color, he show and mash up. We have criticism. But what will define us as a nation is not the extent to which we can criticize, but the extent to which we can offer solutions to problems, particularly problems such as crime, that threaten our very survival. And so when we look again at the numbers and the statistics, one murder is one too many. But we must not be quick to start down a road of comparison, because we have had good years, we have had bad years. Our job is to seek to work together to ensure that we keep the bad years to an absolute minimum, or we eliminate the bad years altogether. And in that, my friends, all of us have a role to play. And so nobody's going to stop me from making a contribution or making a suggestion or making a recommendation or saying to the Minister of National Security, this is what I think by way of solution, simply because I happen to be in opposition. I think we need to do better than that. And in the same vein, I say to the government, you can't have all the answers. You do not have all the answers. Reach out to the opposition. Reach out to civil society and see what answers they might be able to provide to refine the approach and to ensure that together we can solve that problem. That is my soliloquy. 55 minutes. And I therefore want to open the lines. You realize that I didn't bring any other issues tonight. There are many. I brought the issue of crime because I think it is such an important issue. And I'm hopeful that when the lines open, people may call and share their views and their perspectives, because that is what we need. Sometimes we say we have masters and PhD and all kind of thing, but we may not have the answer. We may not have the answer. Before I open the lines, I can tell you a little joke. I'm sure you might have heard it before. They say a lorry, big truck came along and misjudged and got stuck under a bridge. Truck was too high, got stuck. And they bring all kind of PhDs and engineers and they start to discuss, well, do they cut the truck? Do they cut the bridge? How are they going to solve this problem? I said, there's a little boy there sitting down, and after all these people came with their laptops and their tablets and trying to work out height and distance and all kind of thing and what equipment and what crane and all they got to need, the little boy said, man, just let out the tire from the, let out the air from the tire. Because if you let out the air from the tire, the truck gonna fall. And then you could pull it out on the other side. Sometimes it is other people who have that solution that we need. And we as leaders don't have all the answers. And it is wrong to surmise that we do. So I'm opening the lines now. 869-469-1616 and 1700. If you have something to say on this topic or on any other topic, you're welcome to call. But I really would like to hear from you, the public, what your views are. And if you disagree with me, that's okay too. Because here we invite and accept all shades of public opinion. Let's go to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Mark. How are you?
Good evening, my brother. I am well, thank you.
I sat here and I'm so pleased with your explanation tonight, because we can't just sit around and blame government and so for crime. It hurt me. What amazed me about your speech, is when you gave the statistics about Douglas and Timothy under your administration. I was absolutely shocked because I don't keep those records anymore. Mark, is amazing the job that you're doing in this country. While there are many insane kids who being paid to undermine you, but it would not happen. I take a step back and I'm observing how our country, with sensible people acting like fools on programs on the radio, no solution. Hear this one. In Psalms 12:8, the Bible said, the wicked walk around unrestrained because the sons of men promote depravity Many of us in the communities in this country, we know who are committing the crime. We must tell the police. And Mark, I want to remind you of something very important you said tonight. We must know friends in the community we could talk to. Let me tell you something, Brother Mark. There's a special police officer in this force in St. Kitts. Any criminal element that I see, I could call him and move on it immediately. We can't live in fear in St. Kitts and Nevis over criminals. We have to go after them, because the parents of most of the criminals, they know that their children are criminals. What do we do? The Bible said, this alone I have found, that the true God made man upright, but they continue to do evil. It's been found in Ecclesiastes 7:29. Our people have evil minds because it's their intention to do bad. But you made a great point tonight when you mentioned, are we blaming the school? We're going to blame the community, say the community failed to bring up a child? No. The child have his own sense. Today in my business, a man came to look for me, Mark. Today. I wasn't going to call, but I was a little angry today. A man came to look for me, and he was telling me about politics. He don't hear me around, and I told him I cool off now because I'm picking up something, so I'm just observing. But I am wondering, mister, how come we can't find politicians like Mark Brantley? He tell me about Mark Brantley is a crook. And if you hear the reason, because he know that I love you, what he's telling me you're a crook with, I can't say it on the radio because it's too low. When I see you personally, I'll tell you what he say. You with me, right?
Yes, of course.
The reason he gave me why I should not love you is too low for the radio, because this is Vaughan Radio, and I am aware that Vaughan Radio has a standard. Today, Mark, I have sat down and hear Ike. You heard of a guy down here named Ike, right?
Yes. Radio personality.
He criticized you many times. But let me tell you, I bet you they will never say, sometimes he would say a couple nice things about you too. Well, Mark, let me tell you, my business didn't do well today. So I closed up the business and I came home to meditate on life and to see if I could find some answers how I could help these young people to have a change of heart. Because what they're doing, most of our people don't realize they are destroying this country. Stop blaming Dr. Jew. One of the biggest problems we have in St. Kitts, why I'm not in politics right now, is that even in Dr. Jew party, they are trying to undermine him. How could he take all this burden? He's not going to say it anyway. I'm just telling the nation, Jew would not come out and say the problems he's facing in his party. But he's facing a lot. He can't do much about what's going on. Collective responsibility is what we need in this country. Even if you don't like Jew, you must see if you could find something to call him up and say, Dr. Jew, I have a little suggestion. You know I'm not on your side, but I am Licky Bird, or they call me Carlton. I have this suggestion and I need to see you personally, Let's have a 5-minute talk. But today, a man called me and told me, DuPont, put on Zigusa. I'm just using the word Zigusa. You hear how great Zigusa sounds. But now, tonight, I heard you giving some statistics. People better go back if they miss this program and hear this call. Go back tomorrow, if they know to use the phone, I can't do it. Go back and listen the statistics that you gave tonight, that the 2 worst times we have had in this country, I listen you out there on the balcony, carefully. You say that under Denzel Douglas, if I'm not mistaken, in 2011, we had 35. 30 in St. Kitts, 5 in Nevis.
Yes.
But you went on to say the second most. That is the one that caught me. Was under Timothy Harris in your administration. Something I like about you? You could even speak about what you were in, even if the thing wasn't going good.
But those are the facts. Those are the facts, my brother. I mean, you can't change the facts, you know.
But Mark Brantley, I want to give somebody a time to call. You know something? I cannot. I ask myself today, Carlton, could you find a reason why you hate Brantley in politics? I can't. I want to tell you this tonight. Even though I ease back from politics, see what you could do still. Because I see you as a man, you're brave, you have love, and the Bible remind me, I'm a Bible reader, perfect love casts fear out. Why? Because fear restrains a man. There are so many people will call in down here in programs and abuse you. But if you were to sit with them and ask, could you construct something really good against Mark Brantley? They can't. Because it seems as if they are still being paid to come after you. And in my opinion, this is only my opinion, you are one of the finest politicians this country has ever seen. Have a very good night. And I decide to call in tonight to give you this courage, because it's important people like you get encouragement from people like me, who are not afraid to be expressive and speak about truth and righteousness. May God bless you, brother.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that call and for the sentiments you've expressed. I really, truly appreciate it. It does get lonely sometimes because you get the criticisms, but sometimes people are not as inclined. And some of the best messages I've got is including calls like yours when I get a little WhatsApp and a word of prayer, encouragement. There's a friend of mine who almost every morning he sends me something, an instrumental, let me just put it that way, and says, you know, we're praying for you, we're encouraging you. I think that those things really help us and help each other. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Miss Sheriff.
Good evening, my dear.
How are you doing?
I am well, thank you. Good to hear.
Good speech.
Thank you very much.
Isaiah 54 verse 17. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their righteousness is of me, said the Lord. Good night to the manners over there in Canada and my nephew. When you finish, I have something, I'll call you and talk to you. Have a wonderful night.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your scripture. And yes, we talk off the air, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, my dear. It is 8 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. We're taking your calls at 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. We put some information on the table and an issue involving crime. And I would invite calls to address that. Of course, you can speak to other issues as well. But if you have something to say, particularly if you have a proposal that we can engage in some dialogue to get us to a point of solutions, I would appreciate that very much. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yes, good night, Mr. Brantley.
Good night to you.
Nice program.
Thank you very much.
Yes. I'm going to read a scripture tonight. I'm reading from Proverbs chapter 2, verses 6, 17, 18, and 19. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Bow down thine ear, and hear the words of the wise, and apply thine heart unto my knowledge. For it is a pleasant thing if thou keep them within thee. They shall withal be fitted in thy lips. They that trust may be in the Lord. I have made known to thee this day. Good night, Mr. Brantley, and have a wonderful night.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that scripture. I think that it's an important reminder of what we need to do and what our responsibilities are. Let's go back to the phones and continue to take your calls. Good evening, you're on the mark.
All the hate and all the things that was going on in this federation of Stinkit Nevis with a unity government, it was only this fair share. That's why the country will be right now. Fair share for Nevis. That was the problem. And you and Carlton Little Boy Japan, you almost in the Bible. This is Mr. Politics here. Fair share for Nevis. That was all the problem. And that is what's going on right now. Because when the unity government was doing well, everybody talk about the unity was going so good. Even you and others was talking about the unity. Where you all fool us? Where you all fool us tell us everything was so good. And then after the 2020 election, everything fell on blam, a slapping a critician face and the vision face. It ain't right. It ain't right. That's why the crime going on right now. Because the fair share and everything for the fair share for Nevis. And all the backstabbing and all kind of things going on.
So caller,
everybody saw the unity was going good.
Mr. Politics, let me ask you a question. So you're saying that we have crime because the issue about fair share for Nevis was an issue? Is that what you're saying?
The unity government, the last the 3 years, it wouldn't, all this problem won't occur. Because you all don't set everything together. With the young people, call the young men together, pick a team for the, what the team again? Pick a team for the, bring in export and everything to control the guide them, and whatever you are, work out with them. You understand? I am not a fool. And that's why you get me so political educated now, to stay away from party politics and just sit for my country and talk for my country.
So if you're talking for your country, do you have any suggestions for the government as to how they can handle this problem?
Well, I don't the suggestion. And the suggestion is that the suggestion is the parents, them and the oil children and whatever. I don't give suggestion from different many legislation. But my suggestion is it that if this unity government they continue the 3 years out, we will not have this problem. Because the people never ready for election. You understand? People walk out where they want to walk out, family walk out this, husband and wife walk out this. Everybody in a group, everybody in a team. And you will stop to the people of the federation. That's why they do it, that's why they do what they got to do, you know. That's why they got to do what they got to do. They went back to Labour. Because everybody in the crime was rampant under the Labour Party. You look how much you say that the second most happened on the thing. Because when unity, remember when unity got in you? In the election of unity, manslaughter all in the line, 2015. You don't forget that? I have no problem with what going with the Labour Party, you know, and in government, you know. Because far they concerned they get a gift. Because whatever. Nobody wants to listen to nobody, and we culture and others calling in from the program, and you all were saying everything good. The deputy prime minister, everything was good. Dr. Harris is doing a good job over there, and after that we elected who unity get one slap in our face. So how we could take that?
Mr. Politics, I hear you and I understand the passion that you're bringing, but I'm not so sure how you're making the leap by saying that unity fell apart and therefore it is leading to crime in the country. What is the connection? That is not what I... listen carefully, Mr. Politics. That is not what I said. I said that it seems to me that you're making the case that because unity fell apart, that there is no crime in the country.
Yes, that's one because the people never ready for election. We never ready for this. We never ready for election.
So the people weren't ready for an election, so they've resorted to crime now? That's what you're saying?
Well, listen up. The team, listen up, when a different administration got going, you're not praying that everything going to be different, because they're going to try to do things different. You know, make different changes with whatever. You know, if you're a group there, you're this there, you're that there, what's the help controlling the crime? You know, maybe that ain't gonna happen. You know? And this government get in and maybe they do things different to where unity was doing.
Well, can I ask you a question, Mr. Politics? Can you point us to what this government is doing differently that you feel is contributing to the crime? Because that might be part of the solution. What do you think Dr. Drew's administration is doing differently that is contributing to crime?
I listen. I hear a kind of thing that people get put away because of certain things. Some people was on the peace. You know, some people were going to pay for the peace. Young man was getting loan to elevate themselves in business. And I know some young man who was all Indian crime under the unity. Right now, and me hear them calling nothing. I agree that some people get opportunity and they take advantage of it because under Douglas administration, you know. A lot of young men get opportunity and they take advantage of it. You understand? But what I try to tell you, Mark, if the unity last the 5 years, I don't think that the country would not be the situation where we will be right now.
Okay.
Because what? The people are got to make a choice when they go to the poll in next election. They're not got to go to the poll in the next election and decide what they want. Because all could have things work out in that 3 years. Something would happen in that 3 years. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
The people are disappointed. It's not disappointed. The people are disappointed. That's what they do.
Well, I don't know who the people. Mr. Politics, I don't know the people disappointed in because the CCM had 3 seats and we went into the election and we end up with our same 3 seats. So who were they disappointed in?
People are disappointed because you are failures.
But I'm saying that the CCM party that I lead came back with the same seats that it had. So it suggests the people of Nevis were not disappointed with CCM.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, everybody say you outsmart Sean.
I outsmart Sean.
That is the slang now. You outsmart Sean.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting.
Listen, the country, Brother Mark.
Well, it's my
government in.
It's my country too.
Listen, me not take the government, the politics, you know. Because me don't do my own thing, me don't do my little thing and do whatever me want to do. And me not take the government, the politics with it. This is something we got to step down, and every community, everybody got to come together. And people got to call out the ignorant one, call out the children them, call out who in the community who do the wrong thing, and work with the police them, and the police work with them too. I have no problem with any government in this country. But my problem that we know because of unity and unity fails us. Anyway, you have a blessed night. May God bless you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Politics is very passionate, and passion is always useful, but sometimes in these debates we need more light and less heat. I truly did not understand the suggestion that because and I'll take responsibility for it, said to Timothy Harris that he was not leading as we had agreed, and that the people of Nevis were not getting what we had agreed, that is somehow now contributing to crime. I can't speak for the People's Action Movement. That is for the Honorable Sean Richards and his team. But at the end of the day, we felt collectively that Team Unity had lost its way and was not honoring the commitments and the core principles that we had agreed. And it was as simple as that. The government collapsed. Why did the government collapse? All kind of people saying all kind of things, but the leadership refused to sit. A man who had 2 seats out of 9 refused to sit with the other 7. In fact, he fired 6 of us, if you recall, because he said he was the top dog. Well, if you're the top dog, go to the polls and see what the people say. The people said, no, you misspoke, you're but a little chihuahua. And the CCM in Nevis had 3 seats, and the CCM came back with the same 3 seats. So when you say the people were disappointed in unity, I can say based on the results that the people of Nevis who sent me to Bastia and sent Alexis Jeffers to Bastia and sent Eric Evelyn to Bastia were satisfied with the position that we took. So if that doesn't suit you, for whatever reason, you have your views, and I respect that you have your views. But don't deny somebody else their view and their perspective as well. Unity collapsed because of a failure of leadership. That is the simple answer. But whether unity was there or unity wasn't there. Because you see, this is the exact argument I'm trying to get away from, Mr. Politics. We can't continue down this road of saying, well, if Tom was in the office of Prime Minister, we wouldn't have crime. But that suggests that it's Tom who controls the crime then? I hope that's not what you're saying. Because it's almost as if you're saying, well, if a certain person was there, crime wouldn't be happening. And if that is what you're saying, then if that certain person is still around and has so much power, why isn't that certain person then putting up their arms and saying, be still? Criminals, put down your arms and be still. Because after all, we all say we love the country. Or are you saying that unless I'm in charge, they can go ahead and kill each other out there, and I'm going to sit back and watch it happen? So we have to be careful, I think, in what we say and how we say it. Because I go back to what I said earlier, Mr. Politics. Crime is no respect of person or party. Crime happens. It happened in the Garden of Eden. And neither FAM nor Labour nor CCM was there. It happens. What we must do is rise above that base inclination to attack and to blame and see if we can find workable solutions to save our country. That's all I'm saying. Let's go back to the phones. Caller, please call back in. Let's try this call. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening to you.
It appears that caller who just calling want to blame you for everything, for the downfall of the community government. But what he failed to realize, or maybe he don't remember, what he has to say in regards to the resignation of Akila Byron Nisbet and the other ministers who resigned. And basically all of them resigned saying basically the same thing. That team unity did not live up to its values, its promises. So it comes like a memory is very short. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And you know, I'm happy you raised the point because it shows that it wasn't just Mark Brantley, it wasn't just Sean Richards, it wasn't just John L. Powell, Lindsey Grant, Alexis Jeffers, and Eric Evelyn who had a difficulty with what was happening. Now you're seeing that others, those in the belly of PLP, also are saying they had a problem. I am not even going to get into PLP and their politics. That's a matter for them. I believe that the people spoke in 2022. And the people spoke eloquently. And that is what it is. There's nothing else that I can say about that. If those out there who make a noise about unity wanted unity to survive, then they should have equally stood up and said, listen, unity is not one man. Unity is three parties, and all the parties in unity must be treated with respect. Unity came about because three parties agreed on a certain core principles. Those core principles must be respected. But they didn't do that. They didn't do that. And I will be judged by history, but I am happy and confident in my heart that I did the right thing by departing from a situation which I saw was headed down a road which was bad for this country. And I am not going to resile from that, and I think the results in 2022 said that the people of Nevis, because that is the ultimate touchstone, that they agreed with the CCM on the position that the CCM took. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Brantley, and how are you doing?
I'm doing okay, thank you. Good evening to you.
Don't bother with Mr. Politics. Don't bother with him because he had all kind of things to say about you and Patrick Shaw Monday Night Straight Talk, and now he calling in on your program. He ain't like you. Don't bother with him. Mr. Politics used to dangerous. Stop it. Because he calling and he ain't saying what he said about you. Good night.
Well, thank you very much. And you know, Mr. Politics is, we all know Mr. Politics. Mr. Politics has his views, and God bless him. You know, he should understand, I believe, by now that what he says in terms of seeking to influence anybody and how they vote is like, how should I put it? Maybe the chaff that the wind bloweth away. So we understand, we entertain the views because, of course, there are some who make a career out of calling into shows and having a view. But that doesn't mean to say that they are moving in any way, shape, or form public opinion. I say that to say that, you know, you mentioned what was said about me, and if my career in politics were to be determined by what people have said about me, then Lord knows I would have been out of politics a long time. I would have been a distant memory. But in fact, I'm still here. I'm still here. The party is still strong. We have won election after election. We went to the polls in 2017 and we won under my leadership. We came back in 2020, made history winning all the 3 seats in Nevis for the first time. We came back in 2022, did it again. And then we came back in 2022 and we won a second term in the Nevis Island administration. So people can say what they want to say. That is their prerogative. Everybody has an opinion. I am, however, trying to move beyond the opinions and say, what solutions could there be? What solutions could there be? And if I am wrong for asking the nation to pay attention to solving the problem, rather than just talking about it or blaming somebody for it, but solving it, I believe that we will be farther ahead. Let's go back. We have 25 minutes past 9. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Hi, I would like to say that I've listened to you over the past 2 weeks, and I think recently when you mentioned that it's important not to bring politics into the crime fighting. I don't think that is going above what we usually see in the scrambles, and I would advise you to keep it that way. I like the way you're going. Not down anything that would divert from that. We have to focus on building the country, and I like your stance so far. Let's continue. My little advice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I'm grateful for your call. We continue to take calls. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Whatever greetings.
Greetings to you.
How your night is going to the premier?
We're going all right, thank you.
Give thanks for life. I just called to tell you the program with the initial to get result of what the situation committing crime aspect. And I would like to share my condolence to the family of those who had lost their loved ones through gun violence. I hope that we can see this initiative that is outlawed by the administration and the high program. They work with the people and not by how they want things to curtail. Because, as you just stated, crime should be implied by political aspect. So me not coming here by no concept to work within the movement of political. I'm calling for our youth to put down all those dirty guns and let us start open books to create a betterment for the next generation. And that's all I said tonight. Give thanks.
All right. Well, I love that. Put down the guns and open the books. I really love that. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that sentiment. It is just about 28 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. We're taking your calls. Good evening. Good evening. You're on the mark. Hello? We lost that caller. Caller, please call back in. Let's try again. Good evening. You're on the mark.
So, Mark.
Yes.
This is DuPont. I'm back to tackle something important. Today, I came home and I don't listen to radio programs, so I decided to put on EK program and Freedom. And EK did such a splendid job in trying to see how we could find solution. People abuse him in defense of other people, you know. So I heard him saying, sometimes I wonder if people don't really listen, because me and understand what he call really saying. May I tell people in this country that a lot of parents know the type of children they have. Are they doing anything to help them to discontinue the awful condition which they have found themselves? Can we find some solution? A great program, you know. I say, well. Everybody that come in this store and tell me how terrible he'd be. How come they could never tell me how good he is whenever he is good. This is the problem we have in St. Kitts. Depending on who you are, we speak good about you. Let me tell you something about Mr. Politics. Mr. Politics is not somebody we should really get angry with. Because I have sat down and I study human nature. And what I'm going to say now, I'm not blaming Mr. Politics. But there are some politicians in St. Kitts right now. They are egotistic. And they are glad the crime's happening so they can be elevated to go back on the throne. But when they become elevated and goes back on the throne, it doesn't solve the problem. It pumps more money in the problem. Money can solve a man's heart. A man's heart could only be solved by drawing close to God. In James 4:8, the Bible said, draw close to God and he will draw close to you. Cleanse your hand, your indecisive man, and purify your thoughts. God wants us to look within ourselves, see where we are going, and make meaningful adjustments to our life. You know the reason why people are going to start to call particular names to go back at the helm? Because they used to get a lot of easy money from the treasury. There are so many people, Mr. Mark, used to be paid from the treasury in order to undermine you all. Let me just say you all. And you know what will be good? I am sitting here in reflection, Mark. You know what will be good? If when people say you do certain things to Sean, that is not true, Sean come on and dispute it and say, no, that was not so. Because the amount of knowledge that I learned today, Mark, you listening to me?
Yes.
The amount of knowledge that I learned today about the mistake of Sean from big people in Pam, it nearly blow me crazy. But I want to live my life a kind of different. I just don't want to be blatantly going after anybody. We got to try to find solution. But I want you to know this, Mr. Brantley, that's why I call back. Anytime people call in on any program, no Carlton. For instance, we have a program down here on a Monday night and Thursday night by a gentleman. I really don't know what to say because too many people shouldn't listen to that program. It's not edifying. It's not going to help us to solve the problem because the program that this particular person is doing is a biased program. When he started out his program in Dr. Drew's administration, I'm taking mental notes. I can't write. He spoke about Dr. Drew in such a great way. Then when Dr. Drew wasn't fitting in to what he expected, no, Carlton, don't say that. Start turning on Drew. That's not how we should live in politics. We should be able to give jacket. And Mark, one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen in this country is some of the altercation that you had with Dr. Denzel Douglas. And you're still able to come down off that high horse, if there was ever a horse, and people could see you in the community with Dr. Douglas, eating, drinking, chatting, shaking hands. Mark, let me tell you again, you ain't easy in this country, And you know why I call in tonight? I have to hear my voice to let this country know we must protect you and we must care for you because I believe you care for our people. There are some great friends I have right now very angry with me for speaking well about you because they'd call me and tell me all the bad things about you. I can't call no names. But let me tell you something. Most of the people that is coming after you is coming after you, hoping that you and Dr. Drew could split up. And there is an opening where something great can happen, where they could start making money again. The love of money is the root of all sorts of injurious things. And by going after it, Some have been led astray from the faith and have stabbed themselves all over with many pain. Is money. Most of the people who abuse you, Mr. Mark, please listen to me a next minute. Most of the people in the Federation who constantly abuse you, they are doing it because they need some more money. Some money is lacking. The treasury not giving them enough money. Well, why can't people learn to work like me? You know what a man told me today? He don't like me. I said, why? He said, you just go on like people could come like you. I said, mister, could you please tell me what you mean that I just go on like people could come like me? I was a humble man, grew up in Sandy Point, never attended school, but I had a mind of my own, and I learned from a tender age that I want to learn a trade, because if I have a trade, I can work here, there, in many different places and then find exactly what I want to do in life. The man vexed with me because he tell me nobody could come like me, building nice apartment and having a nice jewelry store. Well, let me ask the country a question tonight, Mark, on this show. What about the $100,000 that I did ask the former Prime Minister for? Just one person pay. Just one person pay in a year. One person. I don't want to call the person name tonight. I used to call it on my Freedom FM show. What about the $100,000 that I, Carlton Elroy, Emmanuel DuPont, asked the country to give me to train 5 jewelers out in Nevis and 7 in St. Kitts? I got people in America who gonna come to set diamonds, to show them how to do nameplates, to show them how to fix any watch, take it down in pieces and put it back up, because my son failed to go and do the training that I put away money to send him to school. He decided not to do other things. I am so disappointed as I sit here tonight that my son, I have a son, I believe, about 35, 36 years. I don't study age now because I'm disappointed with so many things about the way he's moving. I would like him to go better, because he knows what pleased me and he knows what displeased me. And I put money aside that I work with my own sweat for Grandma to send him university to study all the things that I'm telling you about. He said no. Mark, do you know how I feel tonight as a father? Not good. Because when you work hard and want to give the best to your children, because I didn't grow up in the best way, it was a sacrifice I was thinking about to help him. Now, nobody wants me on radio. You know why nobody wants me on radio? They don't like my comments. Because my comments will never be comments looking for salary from anybody. Not this Rasta man. This Rasta man is a godly man. And this Rasta man got love in his heart. And he live a life without fear. Because fear restrains a man. But the love of God gives you the courage and the confidence. Mark, I want your listeners to listen to me tonight. Be careful how you deal with Mr. Politics. I have built up a special love for him. Mr. Politics look like sometime he just go and come. Up to now, why Mr. Politics don't call in on the radio and say, I believe if Timothy Harris was a different man, he would have listened to you and Sean and the others. He would have still been the Prime Minister today, and he would have worked to change the leadership, still work along with you all, and we work to make St. Kitts and Nevis happy. Until a lot of people start to call in and stop blaming you and Sean for everything. Why they're not remembering the nasty attitude of Dr. Timothy Harris when that woman at that meeting went and said, I know you might want to do it, you know, but the people believe you should take a third term. He has never gone against it. I want St. Kitts and Nevis people to understand that they're playing with fire. When a politician can come out and condemn something like that, a statement like that, and when somebody like him could end up calling a man who gave him Prime Minister a fool or whatever word,
Mumu,
had used and Sean, Mumu,
yes.
thank you, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
When Dr. Harris could come out and call Sean Mumu, it is one of the biggest shame this country have ever seen. That is why I campaign against them in the election. And let me tell you something. There's a gentleman in Nevis called me a couple mornings ago. Mark is one of the best thing I've ever learned. I don't know how Washington Archibald didn't teach me this one. He said, Mr. DuPont, I want to tell you something. There is no permanence in anybody hating each other in politics. And there's no permanent friend in politics. And there's no permanent hatred for the other man in politics. If they see the way they all will come back. I just want to finish on this note. If Timothy Harris was a different individual, he would have sat, analyzed the situation that confronted us when you all asked him to sit. Let's do things a little different. Mark, how come Mr. Politics and Culture and many others not speaking about Timothy Harris undermining the same administration that he was in charge of? He was putting all of the big PAM people against Sean. No, Carlton, don't say that. Timothy Harris is somebody we should keep from in politics until he come out and talk about the wrongs that he has perpetrated on the unity setup. We must keep from him. We mustn't hate him though. We must pray for him that he could be a better person. We need love. I have no hatred in my heart for Timothy, but I am disappointed with the experience of Timothy and his action the night when I walk away from a convention when, when a lady came from Trinidad, want to tell a dancing man like me, who brighter than people who went to university, that if they want to, you must take it again. Immediately, Timothy should have cranked her down. So when we talk about crime, people are now coming to me and say, DuPont, you don't think the crime coming back because of the lack of money? No. The evil intent will always be in the heart of those who are committing crime. It's just that now no money going on. They feel it's a good time to take up, to see if something else could happen. But crime going on in St. Kitts ain't got nothing to do with not getting enough money from us, the ones who stay away from crime. Crime is planted in the heart of a man. Mark Brantley, I want to say thanks for giving me this opportunity. It was a burden on my heart all day, and I was outside searching my mind 1 hour on my balcony to see if I should call. And the Spirit said, you can call. Just control your emotion and don't say everything on your mind. Timothy is a man we should keep from until he come to the nation and apologize for what he did to us. The biggest problem I had with Timothy, you say you want 2 terms. Sean went back up there and put you back in when he should not have done it. Don't say nothing else, Carlton. Stop there. However, when he got the 2nd term, when he continued to undermine the same Sean, have a good night, Mark Brandy. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much. I truly appreciate it. And I've allowed you to speak uninterrupted because I think, as you said, you had something to say, and I think it is something important that you said, and I believe the nation has heard you. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you well. Thank you.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Because I called before. But I have 2 questions to ask. I heard about this visa thing to Canada. Is this the same kind of visa that they had before? And was it the initiative of the Canadian government or our government? I realized they gave a list.
Yes.
So what can you tell me about it? Because to me it sounds different. I don't know.
Well,
Wait, don't answer yet. Don't answer yet.
Okay.
The next question. As the leader of the opposition, is there any communication
a consultation in relation to the bills before you all present, or do we have 3 sets of opposition? That's the question.
Okay, thank you very much. In relation to the matter for Canada, it's a very important development. I didn't get into it earlier, but the Canadian government, as the public might now know, has announced a reversal of their visa policy that they handed down in 2014. In 2014, at very short notice, the Canadian government imposed visa restrictions on the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, saying that we had now to get visas to go to Canada. That was a decision, I think, that really created a lot of difficulty for a lot of people. And when I became foreign minister in 2015, that was one of the main objectives of my time there, was to seek to persuade Canada to reverse that position. We worked hard, but at the end of the day, I left that post in 2022, and Canada had not yet acted on a reversal, notwithstanding our engagement with them, sustained engagement over a long time. We have now got the news in the last few days that Canada has now reversed that position in part. And the reason I say in part is because Canada is now saying to nationals of St. Kitts and Nevis that if you had a visa to Canada in the last 10 years, then you do not need a visa to come to Canada anymore. And that is because in the last 10 years they would have already collected your biometrics, your fingerprints, your iris scan, whatever it is they do. So they're saying if you have had a visa in the last 10 years, so if you got a Canadian visa anytime around 2012, 2013, you no longer need a visa to go to Canada if you have a St. Kitts and Nevis passport. They're also saying that if you have a US visa, you no longer need a visa to come to Canada. So anybody who does not fit...
you come on the airline, they say.
I'm sorry?
They say if you come on the airline.
Well, we're not going to Canada on ships, so that is fine.
I was wondering if those in the USA who want to go over to Canada, that would affect them?
No, I think that once you have the US visa, you won't have an issue. If you have a St. Kitts and Nevis passport, you have a US visa. So, those who do not fit into that category, that is, those who have not had a Canadian visa in the last 10 years, or alternatively, those who do not have a US visa, they would still have to apply for a Canadian visa.
Trinidad?
I think it's but remember, we had negotiated with Canada because prior to this, Canada did give some relief in that they said you can apply online and they will come to St. Kitts and Nevis to collect the biometrics. That was an initiative from St. Kitts and Nevis. We were the ones who raised it with Canada initially. They were not inclined, but through the persistence of our High Commissioner there, Sherry Truss, they eventually agreed. And just as you are now saying, other countries have benefited from this recent announcement, so too did other countries benefit from the itinerant biometrics collection that we, St. Kitts and Nevis, had proposed to the Canadians. So I'm very happy.
When I asked you, I know that you were actively pursuing the matter, and then I heard the announcement without any other thing.
Well, the announcement has come, and you know, the way that our government and our system works, who's there when the announcement comes is who must take the credit. And so I give kudos to the Honorable Dr. Douglas. He's the Foreign Minister now. But I also give kudos to the Honorable Shirley Skerritt, Her Excellency, Shirley Skerritt, who was our High Commissioner in Canada, and to Her Excellency Sherry Truss, our current High Commissioner, and to Kebas, our PS in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the entire team, because I will tell you, it was a concerted, decade-long effort to get back to this point. So I commend all of those involved, and I'm happy that we now have this result. Not a complete result, but far better result than we had in the past. So if you've had a Canadian visa in the last 10 years, you no longer need a visa to go to Canada. And if you have a US visa, you do not need a visa to go to Canada. So that, I think, is a huge improvement, and I was very happy that we were in that announcement, along of course with Antigua, Barbuda, St. Lucia, and a few other
the second question
countries. The second question you asked, is there consultation in the opposition about bills?
Among the members, not just CCM.
Well, there is discussions, and I've had discussions with the Honorable Sean Richards from time to time. I've had no discussions with Timothy Harris of the PLP. But certainly from the PAM CCM side, there has been discussion from time to time on various matters as necessary.
I just wondered, because I listened to you the last time, and your response, right, seemed to suggest that there is no communication, so that before the discussion starts, you would have an idea as to what each person's position would be, not the CCM. Because as a leader, but it seemed that that was not so.
Well, the last discussion talked about the last debate in the House.
That's what I'm talking about.
But the last debate in the House, I think the only point that Sean Richards made was to do with the fact that he felt more that the bill should have gone out for consultation. That was the point that he made.
I was surprised at your response.
What do you mean you were surprised at my response?
No, now you said you were surprised, right? That is why I asked you if prior to...
I didn't express any surprise. I said to you that the point that Sean Richards made was that the bill should have gone for consultation. That was his position. He's entitled to hold his position.
And that's a reasonable position.
My position was that the matter was such that it needed to proceed. And that was my position. So consultation would not have changed that.
And because I am saying, because if we're going to have three positions from the opposition benches, to me, we're not serving the purpose of the opposition.
Well, I disagree. We have three parties in opposition. Each party has its own approach. Each party has its...
You're the leader of everybody, is not so? And the leader of the other two and the...
I am the leader of the opposition, yes,
well, which includes those.
But you can't deny the fact that each party may have a different perspective on something.
Well, that's why I was wondering if it would be better for the parties to get together and make a unified thing, even if people speak. So you will know what they're going to say. They're going to know what you will say. You know? Because as it seems now, you're really wondering how many opposition we have.
Well, you have 5 members of the elected members on the opposition benches. I'm sorry?
I know that the CCM has 3 seats.
Yes.
So they constitute one section of it. Are we going to continue with 3 sections of the opposition?
But what is wrong with that? That's what I'm seeking to ask you. Each member of the opposition comes from a political party. Each party has a perspective. So what is wrong with those parties bringing that perspective to bear in the national parliament?
All I'm saying that it would be better if, as the leader, that you dictate, but that people express their position on bills prior, because the bills are sent up before, right?
Yes, the bills come out before, indeed.
As you said, if things take a different angle at the same thing, it doesn't require a certain kind of response. As you say, each party has their own thing. You know, but to me, the country not being served as well as it should with a disjointed opposition.
Okay, well, I disagree with you, but I respect the fact that you have that view. All right?
Then,
good. Thank you very much for your opinion.
I appreciate the explanation, because I was wondering really what was it this one we had before, or this is a new visa thing? That's what I wanted to know, really.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. We have 6 minutes left, ladies and gentlemen, to take some more calls if possible. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, you're on the mark. Go ahead, please.
Okay, yes, the thing is, if you had backup team unity with the bad that they were doing, things will be okay. That's the nature of the world today. You back up someone, if they're doing evil, it's fine. But you stood up and you did what was right. Isaiah 5:20 states, "Woe to those who call evil good and and good evil. So you continue to stand up for what is right. Okay?
Thank you very much.
And one suggestion, your show will lost its essence if you give one caller too many times. If any caller want to engage it for a long time, let them come in on your panel. And have enough time. But for a calling show, I think you have to start to limit persons. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Well, I hear you and I understand that sentiment. You will admit, however, caller, that there's some nights that I'm here alone and nobody's calling. So sometimes we have a flood and sometimes we have a trickle. And that is the nature of things. But I try to give people an opportunity to express themselves. We have 5 minutes left. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello? Okay, we've lost that caller. So callers, please call back in 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. I'm just making sure my timing is right. Yes, we have about 5 minutes left. We can take some more calls. Do we have as much as 5 minutes? Yes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes, I'm told. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, you're on the air.
This is kind of in response to what Miss Henry said, because I believe that in a situation where there is opposition and there are different parties, that they would have maybe a party position and then representatives from those organizations will perhaps come together to make a particular position, but on the understanding too that it's towards country building. In the end, we have to live in a country that is progressing, and I hope that when discussions are being made, that is towards that end. But the situation with the PLP is a little different, because I'm not sure where the members, with so many people resigning from the PLPs that were once part of it, what the position would be in them coming together and then having a decision and then combining it with the other opposition people. But I'm sure that they will work that out. But ultimately, though, the aim of both those in government and those in opposition is to build the country for the better and for us all to progress. So that's what I wanted to end by saying. Thanks.
Well, I think that it's a wonderful note to end on. We are at the end of the show, and that you have, caller, put far more elegantly and eloquently than I could the point that I've been trying to make all night. At the end of the day, all of us should be motivated to try and build a country. We don't know who will be Prime Minister tomorrow or the next day or 5 years from now. We don't know who will occupy any particular office. What we do know is that St. Kitts and Nevis should be first, second, third, and last in our eyes and in our objective. We should be focused on making our country better. This is not to say that opposition and government will always agree, but there's some issues, crime being among them, that I think rise above the fray and above the politics. And for my part, as leader of the opposition and at this point in our lives, leader of the CCM, I am committed to a path of finding solutions, not just blaming or pointing fingers. That's our show, ladies and gentlemen. The band has struck up. We must go. The show is repeated tomorrow right here on Ron Radio at 1 p.m. Some say it's so nice they listen twice. I think it has been a good show. I thank all of the callers who called and made a contribution. Thank you very much. Let us hope that the discussion tonight is something that can spur further discussion and that we can collectively find solutions to the problems that we have. Good night and God bless you.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its